Welcome to all of those people who are joining us now. Happy New Year. We were just having a chat that it's already January, but it's almost already February. So, I don't know for everybody else, but I'm already finding myself really busy jumping from one thing to the next. So I think this is a really timely topic for us to have a chat about. Today we have Katherine Wagner joining us. Katherine is a registered psychologist with over 20 years experience supporting individuals and workplaces across mental health, communication and resilience. Katherine regularly delivers workplace training and webinars for us on topics such as bullying, burnout, psychological safety and mindfulness. Now, Katherine, I can't remember what month you did the mindfulness practice for us, but I have gone back to that several times. Just gone to the I think it was like a 10-minute, I don't forget how long it was, but I've gone back to that a couple of times just to get me grounded in the morning and really set up my mind for the day. So thank you for that. I find that really helpful. But today, Katherine is going to talk about finding balance, both through work and life and work-life balance, I guess, if there is such a thing. But, and providing us with some practical tools to manage all the competing demands that we have, both in work and in life, really trying to get focus, reduce stress, and maintain our well-being, not just throughout January, but throughout the year. So hopefully you can equip us with some great tools to really ground us for the year ahead. So without further ado, over to you. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Sally, for that introduction, and welcome everybody. It's so inspiring to see so many of you. So thank you for joining January's Wellbeing webinar on balancing the load, smarter ways to manage work and life demands. As Sally said, I'm Katherine. I'm a psychologist with Leapwell, and I'm really delighted that you've carved out this half hour just to focus on you, given that it is still January. Although, as Sally said, actually nearly February, we still have plenty of time to look ahead for this year and set some really positive intentions around trying to get some semblance of balance in our lives. Now, I will do an acknowledgement of country before we do launch to the agenda. So we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which we live and work. We pay respects to elders past, present and future, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. Now, everybody, for this half hour, we're going to look at a modern view on this idea of work-life balance, the importance really of keeping the end in mind and always trying to keep your priorities at the forefront. We'll also look at some hidden drivers of why you might just be feeling so overloaded. Also, it's not just about managing our time, but energy is really important as well to focus on. And then finally, the power of not doing it alone and setting up your environment so systems are supporting you. Now, I have a question for all of you to start off with, and that is, and Sally, you alluded to this, work-life balance, is there such a thing? Well, the notion of work-life balance, we've been thinking about it for centuries and over the decades, and it has been an evolving kind of space. Now, once upon a time, there was a school of thought that we really need to allocate our time really evenly. So 8 hours to work, 8 hours to home time, 8 hours to sleep. And I'm sure you're thinking that's just not realistic. Anyway, the ideas started to evolve after that, and we were thinking stress comes from conflict in the different roles that we're undertaking. But actually, we realise that still doesn't show the full picture and isn't all that helpful. So in the modern world and today, we're talking about this idea of alignment. The idea of work-life balance really is very personal, and it's all about you trying to align your time and energy to what is important to you as an individual in the season that you're in. Now, you may have noticed that life never does stay the same. We do tend to go through seasons. Some of you may be in a season of being a young parent, a new parent. You may be in the season of having older kids, but also now looking after your aged parents. You may be in a season of really good health, or you may be in a season of some chronic health issues. So we've got to always be mindful that our life is going to ebb and flow, and we will go through these seasons. Now, not only that, not only do the kind of circumstances ebb and flow, we've got to remember that our roles in life change. You may be an employee right now, but you may in the future become a student as well as working full-time. You may be a parent, as I said, or you may be single. You may be a coach in your kids' soccer team. So we're always juggling these seasons and the roles that we're in. So some mindsets to really keep in mind there, as you can see. Please adopt everything that we're talking about today with this idea of self-compassion. So that means not comparing yourself to other people. And I know society is trying to give us all of these images of the perfect life we could be striving towards, having a perfect house, looking perfect, having great relationships, having all the time to think about our health. But of course, that's not really realistic in the modern world, and we're not aiming for perfection here. So always be kind to yourselves. That's my first message for you. Don't compare yourself. Now, we also need to have really flexible expectations around this idea of work-life balance. Now, sometimes we may go through seasons where we feel pretty aligned. You may feel a sense of peace and contentment. Your stress levels may be pretty low, which is always great. You might be thinking, yes, I'm really spending my time and energy on what is important to me in this season. However, we do know that things ebb and flow. The unexpected can happen as well. So always be mindful to have these really flexible expectations and just do the best that you can do. Now, it's also important to remember that sometimes, depending upon the season that we're in and the demands that are being made upon us, we may need to rotate our time and attention away from one area of our life to focus on something that might be more pressing and important in that season. So, for instance, at work, some people are very busy towards the end of the financial year, and they may need to really focus their time and attention on work for those few weeks, which might pull them away from lots of socializing and lots of time, say, with the family. So it's important to remember, everybody, that that's normal and it's okay. Likewise, there may be times in the year where you're really able to focus on your family, and that's a big priority, or stepping away and having a lovely holiday and turning your focus away from work. So think of this kind of rotating mechanism. We rotate our time and attention, and we need to try to make sure we're rotating our time and attention towards what is really important to you in the season that you're in. Now, another little tool that can help us there is remembering to communicate with the people around us that are the key stakeholders, because they can support us and it helps us to feel that we're really managing expectations. Because often we feel this extra layer of stress, and you may relate to this, where we feel that we're letting people down, they don't understand why am I not doing what I normally do with them. So please practice really good assertive communication. We can always speak in a warm way with people around us at home or our friends or at work, just to let them know that, hey guys, look, for the next few weeks, I'm going to be really caught up with work. I've got a whole lot of projects I'm really focusing on. I may not be able to meet up as much as we normally do, but, stay tuned, I'll be back, or we can have a quick coffee and then I'll be back to normal with you. Communication really can be a bridge that helps to manage those expectations and, most importantly, make you feel less stressed so you know that people are really on board with what's going on. Now, good communication in that regard can also allow these people the opportunity to support us if they know what we're going through and what our key focus is in that season. Okay, moving on from that, everybody. You might have read the book, some of you, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It's a pretty old book now, but we're still talking about it. It's one of the classics around managing our time and being effective in our lives. Now, he really talks about this idea of always trying to begin with the end in mind, which means really knowing what your priority is at any given time. Because as you can see there, our stress levels tend to reduce and drop away if we really get clear about what's important to us. So I invite all of you to have a good think over the next few days and weeks. It may be on the weekend when you have a bit of time to yourself, to step away with a coffee or cup of tea and really think about the season that you're in and what are your key values. So values are things that don't tend to change day by day. They're like a guiding star for us because we get the feeling when we're focusing on our values, we feel that, yes, I'm doing what I should be doing. This is in line with what's really important to me. Common values that you may relate to, and I often hear from people are, quality family time and quality relationships with people close to you. It may be career growth or really performing well at work and contributing in your workplace. This one, I really hope, if it isn't one of your values, I really hope you put it up there on the agenda. And that is really valuing your health and well-being. Not just your physical well-being, but holistically, your mental well-being, your spirituality. So please keep that always on the agenda. Some of you may also have some values related to travel and adventure or undertaking creative pursuits. So again, it's really different for all of us. So as you can see, this idea of work-life balance is really personal. But I do invite you to have a think about, what are maybe your top 4 or 5 values? And then at any given moment, and particularly when we're feeling a little bit stretched and we may have choices in what should I focus on right now, or should I say yes to this invitation or request, you can stop and do a bit of a gut check and ask yourself, actually, what is most important to me? Let me remind myself of my values in this season that I'm in. And then you can work out where to allocate your time and energy. But you might also ask yourself, let's say in the work context, what is most important and potentially urgent as well here today? And that can also guide you to know what your priorities are. Asking powerful questions is really important. And that's what coaching psychologists often do to really help people to get this clarity. But we can do it with ourselves. Now, clarity comes from also asking questions like, what actually matters right now? Now, imagine the freedom if we get better at asking these questions. You may find that you can give up spending time and attention on people and activities and situations that actually may not be in line with your values at all. It can be quite illuminating. And then that can free up all of this extra time for you to really focus on what's important to you. So it's really this ongoing process of asking questions, checking in and being honest with yourself. Some other questions you might ask yourself are, what can wait actually? Or what can I delegate today? What can be good enough? Now, for some of you here on the line, and I think for many of us, and I'm so pleased there's so many of you now, there's over 50, that's awesome. Many of us tend to be perfectionists. We think that, good enough is never good enough. But look, once again, speaking of self-compassion and being flexible, it may be better for you to think, what, I'm going to leave the house today. It's not looking perfect. The cleaning could be better, but it is what it is today. I've got something more important and pressing to focus on. So it's always okay to lower your expectations and your standards if it's going to free up your time for something that is more important in that season of your life. Now, you might also be asking yourself, what can I actually say no to? But we'll talk a bit more about that, dealing with interruptions and distractions a little later. So remember, everybody, as it says there, not everything is urgent, and try to focus your energy and attention where it counts right now. But on that note, I might just remind you that the modern world has become very good at trying to convince us that there are many urgent and important things. Just think those flight sales where it's only on for the next half hour, book this flight or it's kind of gone. And then you find out that that sale has indeed been extended by 3 days or so, or a few weeks. So always check in and ask yourself, is this really that urgent to me? And is it important to me? And you may find that the answer is actually no. So be on the lookout for that modern kind of marketing, take on things. Now, everybody, some of you might be feeling really kind of overloaded. You may be feeling kind of tired but wired. You may be feeling pulled in all directions. Now, of course, let's get back to basics and acknowledge that if indeed you are facing a lot of demands in this season of life that you're in, If you're in, say, the sandwich generation, you have aged parents plus your own children, plus career pressures, of course, you've got realistic demands that are likely making you feel tired. And I'd implore you to think about problem-solving ways that you can reduce some of those demands or manage them or get some support in or prioritize a few more minutes of rest and rejuvenation in your days, given that you're acknowledging, yeah, the truth is I have a lot on my plate at the moment. It's okay to stop and acknowledge that and make some adjustments. But also, everyone, the thing is, we may not have all of these necessarily external demands being made upon us, but we still might be feeling kind of tired and wired and pulled in all directions. So I just want to raise your attention to some of these more sneaky ways that we can start to feel just overloaded. Now, remember I asked you the question, work-life balance, is there such a thing? Well, my next question would be multitasking. Is there such a thing? And the answer is actually no. We know that there is no such thing as multitasking. When we're doing many things at once, what we're actually doing is what we call serial tasking. And it's very taxing on the brain and leads us to feeling pretty exhausted and again, pulled in all directions and scattered. Do you know that when you're, say, sitting on your sofa, trying to work on a work project, maybe looking down at your phone, you may receive a phone call, you may receive an email you didn't expect with an ad or something like that. Every time you leave one task, it takes energy and time to disengage from that task in your brain. It takes a bit of time to then focus on the new task at hand and energy, and then you're disengaging again, reorienting to a new task. All of that can actually mimic the stress response. So it's tiring on our brains. So no wonder many of us do go to bed at the end of the night and think, gee, I feel wide awake. I feel really tired, but wired. So I invite you to think about how can you reduce multitasking in your day? Can you, say, chunk time in the day to look at emails? And this won't be perfect, of course. You need some flexibility, but chunk things where you can. Could it be that you chunk time in the day to return phone calls? Can you chunk time in the day to do any other tasks that are quite similar? Maybe it's writing reports, for instance. Now, I know some of you, and like all of us really, our roles are somewhat reactive. We need to respond to more immediate things, and that's okay. But if that's the case, where can you still reduce multitasking that isn't needed? I know for me, I love my big morning walk and I go and get my coffee. And normally I feel this urge to listen to a podcast or music or kind of do something, but I'm getting better at reminding myself that no, Katherine, just go on your walk, just do nothing. You're giving your brain a chance to rest and recharge. Likewise, if you're doing a task at home, you don't need to be listening to something else or talking on the phone. Just see if you can train yourself to focus on the task at hand. Your brain will thank you for it. Now, another reason we often feel overloaded and that we don't have the time to focus on what's really important to us is that we're repeatedly distracted and interrupted during the day. Do you know that research on interruptions in the workplace have shown that many people are interrupted around every 8 minutes or so? Most interruptions take at least a few minutes, and this can cut into hours of the day, which pulls us away from being focused on what's important to us. So have a think about ways that you can also, as it says there, small changes that can reduce multitasking, distractions, and interruptions. Now, maybe when you're working from home, not sitting near the TV or something that's going to distract you, having a private space. If you're in the office, can you sit with your back to the heavily trafficked areas? Can you turn notifications off at certain points in the day? Can you put an out of office reply on your emails to give you some space for an hour or so here and there? We need to set up these boundaries, again, to guard our precious energy and our time to focus on what's important. And never fully switching off for all of the above reasons. So have a think, everybody. What are some small steps you can indeed take on a practical basis? You can start really small, just to guard your time and space so you're not constantly being interrupted. Okay, moving on from that, everyone. Now, of course, when we think about this idea of work-life balance, Managing your time is super crucial as best you can. Again, not being perfectionistic about it, but just doing the best you can. But isn't it interesting that we're often pretty good at budgeting our money, but money is something we really can get back if we really try hard. You could sell some things or get an extra job to get money back. But time is that one resource that we can't get back. But we're often more frivolous at spending our time, and we don't think about how to budget our time in line with what's important to me. So I implore you all to really, again, get clear about your values in the season that you're in and really see where your time is going. You can even do a very basic exercise of keeping a bit of a genuine log about how long things take you and where did you spend your time over the next few days without trying to change anything, but just seeing what you're naturally doing right now. And are there opportunities for you to reduce some time in certain areas to open up time for something that's really important to you? But it's not just about time. And in fact, modern research around this idea of work-life balance really looks at the role of managing your energy. And there's a researcher, Paul Schwartz, who's kind of created a whole movement around this area of energy management. Now, our energy is somewhat finite, but we can replenish it. So it's important that we check in on a regular basis through the day and notice how we're feeling, because you may have also noticed when you're chronically tired and worn out, it's harder to focus at work, we're more prone to errors, and even more seriously than that, we're more prone to accidents. And of course, Safe Work Australia take that really important, managing our own fatigue. But also, we're not all that nice to be around. I'm sure you can relate to this. When we're chronically tired and not looking after our energy levels, we're often snappy with people, whether it's at work or at home. So we're helping ourselves and helping people around us if we can really get good at managing our energy levels. Now, it doesn't have to be hard. That's a good thing. You can think on really small scale. You can think of small scale ways to boost your energy and also in the bigger scheme of things as well. So have a think about during the day, what are those small moments where you can have that surge of a bit of an energy boost? I would suggest that just say you've been chunking your tasks, you've spent an hour or so looking at emails and replying. After that hour, that's a great time to get up, walk away, take a deep breath, step out for a glass of water. And you know that in fact, a lot of daytime fatigue can be attributed to not drinking enough water. So make sure you have that hydration. Keeping a big 2-litre bottle is a good way to keep yourself on track, or a litre bottle. Now, everybody, so you can have those breaks, step away for a proper lunch break. I would suggest, guard that time, don't multitask, eat something nutritious, prioritizing rest, having a good 1 to 2 hour wind down time if you can at night, where you step away and turn all the devices off and let yourself get into that mood of falling asleep. And also thinking about holidays, planning ahead, booking time away from work where you can deliberately recharge, because energy management is really important if you want to have that feeling of balance in your life. But I'd also get you to think there, we tend to have different biorhythms, but all of us tend to have a peak time in the day where we're at our best, where our energy is at its peak. Now, when I ask people about this, they often say it's more morning, could be early morning or mid-morning. Some people say later into the evening. Many of us can relate to that 3 p.m. slump where you just feel so tired. So do think about where your peak time is, that hour or two. And I would say really harness that time to be really effective and spend time and energy on what's important to you. So in the workplace, that might be thinking of what's most important and urgent in your role. Or is there a really complex task that requires a lot of cognitive skills? Can you use that time to focus on that task? Don't just fritter away that time on something that's not that important or multitasking. Really use that time. And then being more effective in this regard and more efficient may indeed open up more time that you weren't aware that you had for you to focus on other things in your life that are important for you. Now, on that note, I'd also add the point that if your peak time tends to be later in the evening, please don't use that time to do something really stimulating, because again, it's important to have that wind down time at night where we deliberately have a darker and slower environment to get ready to fall asleep and let go of the day and properly catch up on our rest. Okay, moving on from that, everybody, time is really getting away. Speaking of time, now I'm sure, or I hope anyway, from today's session so far, that you've got some good intentions and you're thinking, yes, there are these small tweaks I can make moving forward. And that's great. But please don't rely upon your willpower to put these things into practice. We know, unfortunately, that our willpower is pretty flimsy. We start off with good intentions, but our energy ebbs and flows, and our willpower tends to fall on the back burner. What really sets us up for success in achieving our goals, and this is based on all the research, is having really powerful systems and routines and setting up our environment to support us. They're the things that are going to really keep us on track when, say, our energy ebbs and flows. Simple ideas here. You know, even if you're working from home, can you have a clear time that, no, the clock tells you that's time to step away and get ready to start unwinding and rotate your attention back to your home life and your own personal time? Do you know, around the world, all different cultures tend to have what we call work to home transition rituals. Now, these are rituals that really signal to our nervous systems that I'm switching roles now. I've done the best I can at work today, and it's time for me to focus on my home or my personal life. Now, that could be driving home from the office and enjoying the radio, or it could be when you're working from home, again, shutting the laptop, putting it away out of sight, having a shower, washing the workday away, changing into your kind of leisure clothes or active wear, whatever works for you. So it's a really good way to remind our body that, no, there are these distinctions in my roles. I don't need to be on all the time in all areas of my life. And these are really simple things that are very doable. Now, also think of this, everyone. We often can open up our diary, our calendar, and we can see all the responsibilities that we've committed to, and we're very responsible people. But how about also being equally diligent about allocating time in your diary for things that genuinely spark joy for you and replenish you? Can be simple things. Maybe you don't have the time in this season to go to the gym 4 nights a week like you used to, but can you put it in your diary just 1 night a week you're going to go to the gym? Or could it be enjoying your favorite meal that you haven't thought about cooking or going out to eat for a long time? Can you factor that into your diary? Or is it meeting up with that really good friend that has your back and makes you feel energized and supported? And look, again, if you're in a season where you can't afford to meet up for a full night out for a dinner, can you just meet up for a coffee or a walk? It's really empowering to look at our diaries and see that we're prioritizing positivity and prioritizing ourselves. It's really this feeling of we're taking back some control of our time and attention. And it should be a really fun activity, of course, to do that. We like to call them glimmers, looking at your diary and seeing these glimmers of light, things that really spark joy for you and energize you. Now, have a think, everybody, in your environment, what adjustments can you make in your systems, your routines, also things like your digital filing systems? How messy or tidy is your desk? Do you need to allocate an hour, outlay an hour of time so that you're going to save time down the track by not losing things and looking through a messy desk? Now, it can also, if this is a bit of a difficult area for you and you feel you're not naturally all that organized, that's okay. Is there someone in your life that is pretty organized? And can you invite them to help you? I know I have a friend who is super organized, the most organized person I've seen. It's like she's curated her life. And I've often said to her, hey, what would you do with these things that keep popping up on my desk and I just don't know how to keep it organized? These certain items always are appearing and getting me down. And she'll have these great ideas and is obviously flattered to be asked to help. So there's people that can help us with this. But look, thinking about good ways to file your emails, label your emails, having the right sporting equipment handy if you want to start focusing on going for a walk every day. Simple things like this, equipment and systems, routines, really help to keep us on track, more so than your willpower. So please keep that in mind and ask yourself that question. Yeah, what tweaks can you make in your environment? And do you need to ask someone to help you? time has gotten away, so that was actually good timing. I want to remind you that rest is not a reward for finishing or achieving. It's actually a part of how we keep going and are able to finish and achieve things. So please don't think that prioritizing rest, no matter what season you're in, don't think it's frivolous or indulgent. It's a must. So keep thinking of those small moments you can step away and take that breath, or step out and enjoy that cup of tea. And I hope after this session, you're planning on stepping away and having a short break to yourself. Now, even though we're just on the half hour, any questions or reflections anyone would like to quickly pose?
Yeah, feel free to put those in the chat box or the Q&A box if you like. Something that I did really love is, lower your expectations and standards. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like something that you should do. We are always striving for perfection, but I've got 2 little kids, as you know, and as soon as I had the second one, lowering those expectations are really what saved me. When you're thinking I need to have the house spotless, or all the washing needs to be done, or whatever it is, I think it can be important, a useful tool sometimes, to lower those expectations and have a little bit of self-compassion.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sally, for sharing that. Yeah, and it's just being realistic, isn't it? It's often just not doable. And I think many of us actually feel relieved and more comfortable to be around people where we can see that, yeah, they have let their, say, household standards drop a bit. I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
So it forms more genuine bonds. Yes.
Sorry, a couple of people have said in the chat box, I laughed a lot at rest not being a reward. I feel seen. And then someone else said, I feel attacked.
Oh.
No, in a funny way.
Oh,
yeah, they've got a laughing face next to it.
Good. That laughing face adds the extra bit of context I needed there.
Yes. Yeah. I think a lot of people will feel seen in a lot of things that were said, self-compassion, flexible expectations, and probably drink more water.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody drinks enough water. So maybe if one thing we can all do together today, drink some more water.
Absolutely, Sally. And look, a simple way to keep yourself on track, having a system in place, is, like I said, having that 1 litre or 2 litre bottle there. And then you just know that I need to get through that today. That's your environment supporting you.
Yeah, totally. Yes, and sorry, in all seriousness, if you are struggling with anything that we've spoken about today, or you do want to speak to maybe one of our coaches to maybe set some goals and intentions for the year, you can reach out and book a session via the Leap Well Plus app, or give our helpline a call and book in, and someone will be able to have a one-on-one session with you and talk about what you're going through, and hopefully give you some support and tips to move forward and have a positive start to 2026. So thank you so much, Katherine. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We will be sending the recording out, and keep an eye out for our February webinar happening in, I'd say, about 4 weeks.
Awesome. Thank you, Sally. And thank you, everybody, for joining. And I hope you found that useful.
Great.
So see you
next
next
everybody.
time.